Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the April 24th episode of PubTalk Live, the live publishing talk show airing the second and fourth Saturday of every month at 9 p.m. Eastern. I am your host, Sarah Nicolas. I'm a young adult author, a board member, an agent liaison for Pitch Wars, and a library event planner. Just a reminder, you can subscribe to reminders via email by clicking on the link in the description so you don't miss a show. If you'd like to support the show, you can find a link to the Patreon near the end of the video description down below. I also wanted to let y'all know, make sure I let you know now that I have an upcoming free workshop on crafting elevator pitches. So I just want to drop that link in the chat in case you want to subscribe to that. Also, some of you may know I launched my new podcast, Queries, Quants, and Quirks, about 3 weeks ago. And people are really enjoying it. So thank you so much for listening. And I saw a couple of reviews, and thank y'all so much for supporting that show. So I just wanted to let you know, if you haven't listened to that, it asks published authors to share their successful query letters and discuss their journeys from first spark to day of publication. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on today's guest co-host. Kylie Schachte is the author of the YA noir mystery, You're Next, out now from Jimmy Patterson and Little Brown. She is a graduate from Sarah Lawrence College, as well as a Pitch Wars alum and mentor. She lives in Portland, Oregon with her husband, tiny cat, and giant dog. Please welcome to the show, Kylie.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me, Sarah.
Thank you so much for coming on. Kylie has been on my channel at least once before.
Yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, for Pitch Wars related stuff. So welcome back.
Yeah, it's always fun. So I was really excited when you asked if I wanted to do this one.
Yeah. So just a heads up, the viewer poll for today, the question is, when you draft, do you focus on getting it done or getting it right the first time around? So I'm going to put that link in the chat if you haven't watched it yet. If you haven't voted on it yet, please go ahead and do that. And we'll talk about it at the end of the show. All right. Hi, Jay. Jay said hi, pubbers. Hey, pubbers. Jalen is a longtime regular around the show, and pubbers are what my viewers have named themselves, which is, I just still get a kick out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Also, yes, my hair is in a ponytail today, and now that my hair fits into a ponytail, you may never see it again. Just heads up. All right, Kylie's going to get us started with some fun news.
Sure, yeah. So the Shadow and Bone Netflix series premiered yesterday based on Lee Bardugo's Grishaverse books. I just finished the whole first season this morning.
Did you?
I did. Are you watching it, or do you plan to watch it?
I haven't watched it yet, but I do plan on watching it. I'm going to see if I can get my significant other to watch it with me.
Yes, I told my husband I needed to watch it all the way through by myself, and then we could watch one episode at a time together. But I knew I would just be too impatient having to explain things to him if we tried to do it together at the same time.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I read The Shadow and Bone and then the sequel, but I didn't read the Six of Crows book. So
yeah,
maybe I should
I'm not
read
a huge fan of the original Shadow and Bone trilogy, but Six of Crows has my heart forever and ever. Yeah. So, but the TV show doesn't really cover too much of the territory of what happens in the Six of Crows books. So it's not like you'll be lost if you haven't read them yet when you watch.
No, Jay, no spoilers here. We only spoil things that are 10 years old or older on the show. All right. So now we have some not so fun news. W.W. Norton, the publisher of a new biography of Philip Roth by Blake Bailey, has stopped the shipment and promotion of the book after multiple sexual assault allegations have been made against the author. On Monday, his literary agency also dropped him, and his accusers range from students in his former 8th grade English class to a former graduate student to a publishing marketing executive. So he's just a equal opportunity harasser, sounds like.
Yeah. Garbage person. I mean, I guess this is not a thing that I knew, but I suppose somebody who willfully chooses to be a biographer of Philip Roth, it's I don't know. It doesn't come as that big of a surprise that you're also kind of trash.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I did see that Australia, the publisher in Australia, is like still going forward with the book and was like, we're waiting on more information, but whatever.
Yeah, I feel like when we're talking about sexually assaulting eighth graders, we can just kind of like take that on face value. I know that's my controversial opinion. The next item we have is the shortlist for the International Booker Prize was announced last week. The prize honors the finest works of translated fiction from around the world, translated into English for the British and Irish market. And the winners are going to be announced on June 2nd in a virtual ceremony.
Yeah, I saw we always talk about the Booker Prize on the show, but I never read any of the books that make the shortlist. That's just not my kind of books, but I always like to cover it just in case other people are interested.
Yeah, I used to work for a small indie publisher, and we used to always like watch the Booker Prize announcements really closely so that we could like try and snag some of them for translation for North America rights, and we would like always lose out to the bigger guys on that fight.
In other award news, the LA Times Book Award winners were announced last Friday. Some notable winners, and I say notable winners, I mean notable winners for the people who watch my show. So I've picked out the genres that most people tend to like who watch my show. They are Punching the Air in the young adult category, The Only Good Indians in the speculative fiction, science fiction, fantasy category, and Blacktop Wasteland in the mystery category by S.A. Cosby. I have like a friend who's friends with Sean, and I really want to get him on the show sometime. So hopefully that will happen.
Yeah, that book has been on my TBR for quite a while. Definitely excited to read it. So glad to see that it's getting some good recognition.
Yeah.
And today was Indie Bookstore Day. So bookstores all over the country are celebrating with events, deals, exclusive items, and more. President Obama did 6 virtual appearances with bookstores to promote them. So if you have a local indie that you want to support, please do so. They have been really struggling, obviously, in the last year. And I'm a debut author. I just have been so incredibly floored by how wonderful indie bookstores and indie booksellers can be, and how enthusiastic and important a part of the community they are. So get out there and spend your money.
Yeah, I today I had to work 9 to 6, and we hosted a virtual gardening festival, which was fun. But that meant that I couldn't make it out to any indie bookstores because all of them are like a 40-minute drive from me. But yes, but it's of course never too late to support an indie bookstore. So feel free to go tomorrow. I'm sure they won't mind.
Or also like bookshop.org, IndieBound, like all good places to shop online, especially if you don't have an indie bookstore in your area. I've been really heavily using Bookshop recently, in particular, to support Black-owned and AAPI-owned bookstores around the country, because Portland doesn't have too many of those.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because let's talk about that for a little bit, because I saw a comment today. Someone was saying, you should support indie bookstores, and this person was like, I only read ebooks, so how can I support indie bookstores? And Kobo has a program where you can basically buy the ebooks, and the bookstore gets part of the profits, much like bookshop.org. If you're not familiar with that, if you want to buy print books at bookshop.org, if you don't have an indie bookstore in your area, you can support them you can support any of them all over the place. And then audiobooks, Libro FM also does that as well. So no matter what format you listen in, there is a way to support indie bookstores through your purchases. So Jeff Bezos has enough money, so it's okay.
No kidding. I mean, I think like as an author, at the end of the day, like I totally get the financial constraints that some people have going on in their lives. Like if you can buy a book, whatever way you need to make that happen is fine, no shade. But if you have, I had to kind of make the call for myself of like, it's financially feasible for me to just only ever shop indie bookstores. So there's really just no reason for me not to be doing that, especially as an author. Now I have like a financial stake in the game. But I think Powell's, which is my local indie here in Portland and is, the biggest indie bookstore in the country, I think, they ship nationwide for
Yeah.
free. And I think it's even 2-day shipping if you order more than $15 worth of books, which is like, not that different from Amazon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there. As you said, Jeff Bezos has enough money. We don't need to be giving him any more.
And I know also like a lot of book bloggers and stuff, they like Amazon because of the affiliate programs, but Bookshop and Libro FM both have affiliate programs as well. So Libro FM, you get book credits, but that's fine. That's fine by me.
It's not like they're going unspent. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So our last piece of news: some Simon & Schuster staff members and other industry folks signed a petition last week asking the publisher to cancel its book deal with Mike Pence. And CEO Jonathan Karp wrote a letter to employees last week defending the decision. He wrote, quote, "We come to work each day to publish, not cancel, which is the most extreme decision a publisher can make and one that runs counter to the very core of our mission to publish a diversity of voices and perspectives." This follows Simon & Schuster's announcement that they would not distribute a book written by one of the police officers who killed Breonna Taylor, but said they could not cancel their distribution deal with the publisher entirely. But that's, I mean,
so many deep breaths over here.
Yeah. I just, whenever I read our mission to publish a diversity of voices and perspectives, my eyebrows shot into my forehead because how can you use that phrase to defend? No, I don't want to get into it. Y'all know. I think everyone knows. Everyone agrees. We're all here. If you don't agree and you're watching the show, I don't know why you're still here, to be honest. But
yeah, I think we can have sort of a diversity of perspectives and voices without pretending like the perspectives of murderers are of just sort of like equal difference of opinion worthy of consideration as people who don't want to be murdered. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Karen. Good to see you here, Karen. All right, it is time to bring on our special guest. So Angela Ackerman is a writing coach, international speaker, and co-author of the best-selling book, The Emotion Thesaurus, A Writer's Guide to Character, Expression, and its many sequels. Available in 8 languages, her guides are sourced by U.S. universities, recommended by agents and editors, and are used by novelists, screenwriters, and psychologists around the world. To date, this book collection has sold well over 500,000 copies. Angela is also the co-founder of the popular site Writers Helping Writers, as well as One Stop for Writers, a portal to game-changing tools and resources that enable writers to craft powerful fiction. So please welcome, I'm happy to welcome to the show, Angela. Hello.
Hi.
Angela.
I have to tell you guys that I'm just watching Shadow and Bone right now. That's what I'm going to be doing after this, is catching up. So thank you guys for not having any spoilers or anything like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's exciting. So anyway, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah. I come to my sister's house to do the show, which the regulars will know. And they're not home tonight. And they have Disney Plus and I don't, so I might just sneak in a couple episodes of something on Disney Plus while I'm here.
Let's take advantage.
That's my thing, yeah. All right, so we are all fans of the Emotion Thesaurus. I'm saying me, Kylie, and probably several. I know Jay is for sure. Can you take us back to the beginning and talk about how it got started and how it evolved to where it is today?
Sure. So my co-author, Becca Puglisi, and I, we met on a critique group site online called the Critique Circle. And we both write children's fiction, and we were both, green writers. Pretty sure that all we needed to do was just tweak our work a little bit, and then we were totally publishable. You guys can relate. And so, we met there and just really gelled and enjoyed each other's work. But we both had a real common struggle, and that was how to show our characters' emotions without them doing the same things over and over and over, like frowning and shrugging and, rolling their eyes and things like that. And, we knew that there had to be a better way to sort of brainstorm new ideas so that our characters weren't all repeating themselves. And we were talking about it with a few other writers there, and Becca had mentioned that she had started taking notes on certain emotions. And so we decided to start building lists and just tackle an emotion at a time and think about all the things a character might do with their body language, those visceral sensations that happen inside, what sort of thoughts go through your head when you're scared versus you're anxious versus you're happy. What are the different things happening there, different vocal tics and things, and just create these lists so that when we needed help, we could go back to them. And we decided at that point in time, we were hearing a lot about this word called platform. And so we knew that we needed to create one, whatever that looked like. Like I said, we were so close and so ready to be published. We had a lot to learn, in other words. So we started a blog, and we decided, let's blog these lists because, maybe other people have the same struggles we do. And it was kind of crazy. They got very, very popular. People would come to the blog every Thursday, which is when we would put up a new emotion, and people would start requesting different emotions, and we just kind of went from there and started branching out into other topics like setting and personality traits and things like that. And then at one point in time, someone contacted us from the Florida Writers Association wanting us to come down and present some workshops around the Emotion Thesaurus that they had, which was surprising because it wasn't a book at that point in time. So what someone had done is they had pirated our content, and they were distributing it as a PDF. And this person had gotten it, and they're like, hey, this is really useful. I'm going to get the people to come in. So that's how we realized, okay, we need to do something with this, or, someone else will. And so, long story short, we decided to self-publish it in 2012. And it became the first of many books and many thesauruses. We have a lot more thesauruses than we have books. We have 8 different volumes as far as different thesaurus topics go, but Becca and I are on our 16th thesaurus right now. And so, we just kind of have kept running with that idea of really helping writers with show don't tell, which is such a huge topic and so important for us to get right. It directly pulls those readers in and involves them in the story world and makes them feel like they're part of what's happening for the characters. So we have to figure out how to make every word in our story count. And so that's kind of our mission now.
Nice. When did you start posting them as blog posts?
I think 2008. I'd have to go back and look. It was quite a long time ago. We originally had a blog called The Bookshelf Muse. And then in 2013, we moved over to Writers Helping Writers on the WordPress platform, just to kind of rebrand ourselves, because Writers Helping Writers, that's what we do, that's who we are. And so it was time to kind of grow up a little bit and brand ourselves and get more serious about this. And so that's been our site ever since.
Yeah, I started getting involved in the writing community in around 2009, I think. And so I feel like the Emotion Thesaurus has always been there, but it seems like it came right before I did, right?
Yeah.
So follow-up question to kind of the growth. You said on your website that focusing on relationships, not promotion, has allowed you to build a worldwide loyal fan base. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I struggle with promotion, like self-promotion. I don't enjoy it. I don't like it. Like, I don't like the whole look at me thing. And yet, there's this conundrum. You have a book, you are supposed to sell it, like, what do you do? And I had to figure out a way, Becca and I had to figure out a way where we could get comfortable with promotion. And what we decided to do was not focus on promotion and instead focus on our mission, which is to help writers. And I think that, if you're always looking for the sales and you're always like hunting money, it's not going to work out. But if you focus on your audience and you ask yourself, what is it that they need? What is it that they want? Why are they on this platform? How can I give that to them? Whether it's entertainment or information or, just to feel like there's somebody there that understands them, it doesn't matter if you're nonfiction or fiction, getting to know your audience and really understanding who they are and what they love, and then being there. Like, to me, that's the way to do this right. And a lot of authors, they don't necessarily like to invest in relationships, because it takes a long time to build a relationship. You don't just meet someone and then get married. And it's the same thing building relationships with your audience. It's going to take time, and you have to be authentic. You have to be genuine. And when you are, it's amazing, because it doesn't feel like marketing. It doesn't feel like promotion. It just feels like you're doing good work. And you're talking to people about things that you both love and enjoy because you wrote a book about it. And so you can take the topics from your book, whatever it is, fiction, nonfiction, and you can kind of nerd out about those things. And I just think it makes marketing and promotion fun. So that's what I focus on is the relationships, not the book sales or anything like that.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's been a big learn. I'm a debut author this year, so that's been like a big learning for me, is that focusing on what feels good to do, which is often the like connecting with other people, getting to help other people, that always ends up paying bigger dividends than the like marketing strategy stuff that I try to game out in my head that just never ends up making any sense.
I mean, I see a lot of marketing the wrong way. I'll get people that, because I have several Facebook pages and whatnot, you'll get a lot of DMs where people just sort of plunk their book in and, that kind of stuff. And you try to have conversations and say, there's other ways to market, and, like, here's, what might work and stuff like that. But I think that one frustration for all of us is that there's always so much to do between marketing and writing and the business end of things. And it's a lot to manage, and some of it's uncomfortable. But there could be a temptation for some people to kind of look for the shortcuts. But it's my opinion that shortcuts don't work, and just, really look around you, look at other authors in your genre, see what they're doing, how are they connecting with their audience, and then emulate these things. The writers who are really successful and really are in tune with their readers, like, that's what you want to have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you balance the marketing versus the getting the actual writing done? I'm asking for a friend here.
Well, it's gotten increasingly more difficult now that Beck and I are doing more than books. Our books, how we tend to do it is, after we brainstorm the idea and the concept that we want to pursue in each book, we sort of split it in half and each do our own half and then swap and all that kind of stuff. So the good news is we're often working on our books at different times, so that makes things a little bit easier. I will admit, like, I am, really flat out with a lot of different stuff, and I don't have as much time for writing as I wish I did. Having One Stop for Writers and, creating new tools and new content there and trying to help writers through that type of portal, it takes a lot of time and energy. And then there is the marketing of both, our books and our one-stop site, and that does, chew into your time as well. But I don't know, you just have to figure out a way to manage the best you can and really challenge yourself to understand what your goals are. And when things come along, opportunities or risks, just look at them, look at what your mission is, and decide, is this going to distract me from what I need to get done or not? Because I know early on, when I was just starting up, like, any opportunity that came along, you're just like, oh, I should do this. And it kind of distracts you. And then you're realizing, oh, I'm not getting my book written, or I'm not doing these things that I really wanted to get done. And so you have to sort of find a way to organize yourself and make sure that your time is going in the right direction. Beck and I, we follow a business plan, and everything changed for us once we started doing that. I have a blog post about it. It's a business plan for writers. It's at Jane Friedman's, and I can, send the link later on if anyone wants it. But my husband is a business management consultant, and so he helped us set up that plan. And once we started following that plan, we got so much more accomplished. It was really fantastic. So yeah, it's not sexy like business plan talk, but It really
I
is.
know. I'm like, ooh.
Tell me more.
No, I love that idea of having like a kind of core mission to come back to, because I think the farther people go in their publishing journey, the more they're going to realize that there are sort of finite limitations around your time and your energy and your creative energy. So having those sort of kind of guiding principles, I think, is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
So I have like a million actual craft questions about emotions, because this is something I struggle with endlessly. So one of the things that I really love about the Emotion Thesaurus is the way that you talk about kind of balancing the different ways of conveying emotion across physical cues, internal cues, dialogue. What's some of the advice that you have for writers as far as kind of calibrating that balance, making sure that all of those things are staying in balance as they're writing?
I would say, first of all, the most important thing that we can do when it comes to emotion is actually really understand who our character is. Because the better you understand your character and what fears they have, what emotional sensitivities they have, what wounds are coming into play in the story, what their comfort zone is, what their emotional range is, you're going to get a better feel for how are they going to express emotion in every scene. And, at what level, if they're scared, is it here? Is it here? And what does that look like? And that's really what we need to understand, is what is that range for each individual character. So the first thing would be 100% really invest time into understanding who your character is and how they express emotion, what feels normal for them. I think as far as making sure that we're not skewing too much to, say, body language, or skewing too much to dialogue, or getting too internal, which is always a problem. We get inside a character's head and then suddenly there's 2 pages of thoughts and nothing's happening. Is just simply to be aware of what our weaknesses are. And I think we all have them. For some people, they struggle with the show don't tell. And so if you know that maybe you tend to tell a little bit more than show, I really recommend to pay attention for where you name the emotion. If you're naming it, relief, or you're naming it fear, or if you've got those actual names of the emotions in your writing, those are almost always places where you need to show and not tell. So if you know that tends to be, something that you do, then you can sort of flag it for yourself, look for those instances and make sure that you're showing. I think too, just thinking about the process of emotion, when your character's in a situation, how are they interacting with the world around them, and make sure that the ways that they are expressing themselves through body language, make sure it's meaningful. Our characters shouldn't just be randomly like crossing a room or randomly picking something up. That's kind of empty description, and we really want to make things meaningful, so that our descriptions are going further and that body language is going further. Viscerals is something where if you know that is something that you tend to not use a lot, you want to look for, and you want to try to incorporate it a little bit more. Most people, though, maybe tend to overuse it, and their hearts are always racing, or their breath is rushing in and out, and there's some overuse there. And I think if we're kind of aware that maybe that is a weakness of ours, that's something specifically that we can look for, those visceral cues. So a lot of it is just kind of self-awareness and sort of understanding, what's our go-to and how can we make sure that we're not always, doing that go-to, and we've got a good mix of different things.
Yeah, my go-to for a lot of my characters is a smirk, which I know is like a YA cliche, but it's also, to be fair, like the most emotion that I usually show externally. So it's just how I am as a person. Like I've been told so many times that like no one can ever tell how I'm feeling, like if I'm mad or whatever, they can't tell, right? And I didn't realize I've been told that a lot, but I didn't really realize it until one time. I don't know if you were there, Kylie, or not, but we had a Pitch Wars mentor chat, and we got a troll on Twitter who was saying like some racist stuff about one of our mentors, and I was getting messages about this. Is the year I was managing director too, and I blacked out. Like I was so angry that I can't remember those 5 minutes, and I went back and watched the video because we were live, and it was like, you can tell there was no outward indication of how I was feeling. Yeah, so that is definitely something I struggled with, and one of the reasons why I really started using the Emotion Thesaurus really early.
That's good. I think one thing that is really common with everyone, and kind of honed in on it, is you're talking about facial expressions, right? Can't see anything. And the reality is in conversations, when we're talking to people, we're looking at their faces, right? And so as writers, it's kind of our go-to. You do describe the smirks or the frowns or the eye rolls and what the eyebrows are doing or whatever. But the thing is we always encourage writers to think about how to use the whole body. Because the face is like this big. There's really only so many things that you can say about it in a fresh way. But the body, like there's, the way your posture is, how your character's personal distance is from other people. How are they moving? Are they really expressive, or are they just very still? Or is there a lot of tension in their body? What are their legs doing? All of these things can help make our writing fresh. But if we're always focused on just what's going on here, it just doesn't translate as well to the page. So
yeah, there are only so many things on your face that can move.
Eyebrows can only move in so many different directions. No, I think that like aside from resources like the Emotion Thesaurus, I think one of the most helpful things for me has been really paying attention to film and thinking about writing cinematically and how actors use their entire body to, and not just the actor, but the entire way a scene is shot and lit and all of that kind of stuff, because film is obviously an inherently visual medium, makes a big difference in the way that we convey emotion as well, because they have almost the opposite problem that we do as authors, where they have none of the internal monologue to rely on, whereas we have not as much of the visual to rely on.
Yeah.
Well, you're totally right with like the lighting and the mood. And this is kind of where describing emotion through our characters, one thing that we can do, but we can use mood and atmosphere and shadow and light and different seasons, different settings that have like a really strong emotional value that has meaning to the character. And it immediately puts them out of their element, or it makes them, comfortable. Like these things can also really enhance whatever emotion we're going for. So we need to think just beyond just our character and think about how all the descriptive elements are kind of working together to create this, fantastic moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way you talk in the intro of the book about using setting and the way characters interact with their environment, because I think often when writers think about how setting is used to convey emotion, they go straight to the place of like, it's the dark and stormy night, or it's like the golden sunlit meadow or whatever. But I think just like the way that characters interact with the objects in their environment, the way the character exists in their environment with the pen on the table or like shredding the napkin at the diner or whatever, all of that is such an important way of kind of doing double duty with your work of you're creating setting and atmosphere, but you're also indicating emotion at the same time. And anytime you can be doing like multiple things at once with one sentence is always like solid gold as a writer.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So my Patreon supporters can submit questions ahead of time for guests on the show. And so this question is from Jay Lynn. And it has a little little pun in it here. It's not really pun. Anyway, how does it feel knowing your Thesaurus series was such a success? And also, do you have plans to release more in the series?
Well, definitely. I like the pun. I would say it's been an incredible roller coaster in that, when we started this journey, we didn't know how popular, especially the Emotion Thesaurus, we thought that, hey, we have this struggle and hopefully this will help other writers, but we had no idea it was going to kind of explode the way it did. And it's just been incredibly gratifying to know that something we did is helping so many writers. Becca and I, our brand is Writers Helping Writers. And I don't think you can find two people that really feel that down to our core like Becca and I do. It's in everything that we do. And so just being able to help people is just fantastic. It feels really great. As for more books, absolutely. It is so much fun to explore different topics. And the more we do, the more we see how everything is just interwoven. Currently, we have our working on a relationship thesaurus at Writers Helping Writers blog. Kind of our process is we float a thesaurus idea at the blog, kind of see what the reception is. And then if it's one that we think is really book worthy, we will, take it off the blog, work it into a book, and then release it. And everything that we do ends up at One Stop for Writers as well, which is why right now there's 8 books, but at One Stop for Writers, there's 15 thesauruses because all of our content is there. So the book we're working on right now is actually the conflict thesaurus, which is, oh my God, so much fun to write because it's something that, every writer needs. Doesn't matter what genre you have, conflict is good and meaningful conflict is fantastic. And so we're really having a lot of fun kind of exploring the many different layers of internal and external conflict and how to bring that into the scene more using different types of elements. And it's actually, as some of our other books has happened, we realized the topic is too big for a single book. So it's actually going to be 2 books. And we're going to release them staggered, just otherwise it'll take too long to get both of them both ready at the same time. So we're really hoping to have the first one released this year. So we'll see if we are able to get that done or not. But nice. Yes, definitely more.
Yeah, I need that. So if you could release it soon, that would be great.
Yeah.
Would much appreciate it. We talked a little bit before about balancing the different ways of communicating emotion, internal, physical, all that. I'm curious about how you think about keeping emotional stuff in balance with other story considerations like pacing, world building, plot. I am somebody where I can just kind of like zoom through plot and it's like banter for 400 pages. And then my editor has to go back in and be like, can you make her feel a thing at any point in the story? So I'm just curious, like, what kind of advice do you have for writers as far as keeping those things kind of all in calibration with each other? How do you know when it's too much emotion versus too little emotion?
It's a great question. And, as I kind of indicated earlier, I really think that emotion is something that can be woven into, all elements of writing. And I think that that's when it's most successful is when we do, when we think about, okay, in this scene, this is the core emotion that the characters are going to experience. How can I enhance that? Well, first of all, I'm not going to have this scene take place, in a kitchen. Like that's boring. Instead, I'm going to take them back to like the high school where this bad event happened, and it's going to bring a lot, it's going to load this scene so much more because whatever the situation is that's happening in the scene has to do with that past event. So I'm going to be thinking strategically about my setting, about the different elements that I can bring into it so that everything just kind of creates this fantastic tuning fork for emotion. But as far as like making sure that, you don't overdo emotion, I think probably one of the best things that we can do is to get critique partners and get the help of other people, get insight, because we get so close to it. And like you say, I mean, there's always, all of us have our things, right? There's something that we love. Some people it's world building, some people it's emotion, other people it's plotting and not so much characters. And, we go all in on a certain element, and we are not always the best judge as to whether or not we went overboard or not. Emotion can be really helpful to get someone else's point of view because we're so deeply in that character's head and we know exactly why they're feeling what they feel, but we can't always judge whether or not we've shown it enough or we've shown it too much. And having someone else say, hey, this was a great scene, but I'm kind of confused as to what she was feeling, or, you kind of went on a lot about what she was feeling. That can really be helpful. I think some people are just also they maybe skew a little bit more to being more internal when it comes to emotion versus external. And that's another issue. Like I said before, if our characters are thinking too much about stuff they're not pushing the story forward, your pacing is going to slow down. And it really is like a concert. And it takes time to learn how to weave all of those elements together in a way that it's just a fantastic symphony. So having the insight of other people, I think is, whether it's critique partners, editors, definitely having the eyes of other people will help.
I love that image of the tuning fork. That's going to like really stick with me. Having all of those elements kind of working together for sure.
All right, so I want to change gears a little bit. We've been talking a lot about the Emotion Thesaurus with good reason because it's great. But Jay actually had another question after reading your bio, she was really interested in learning about what the process is of working with a writing coach. What is it like whenever you do writing coach kind of work?
Well, I'm gonna disappoint Jay a little bit because Becca and I, we don't do one-on-one coaching like other writing coaches might.
Mm.
And the reason why is because we understand that there's just so many different things to balance in order to just create a fantastic novel. And it can be really rewarding to work one-on-one with writers, and we've done that in the past. But we kind of want to help as many people as we possibly can. And so we've sort of taken the broader viewpoint of what a writing coach is, and we make it our mission to create tools that will really help as many people as possible by creating tools that not only make writing easier, but break down the more difficult to understand elements so that writers understand how things work together. And then hopefully they can take that knowledge and just really slingshot the learning curve and really see a strong improvement in their writing. So an example of one way that we do this is a tool that we created called the Character Builder. And this is something at One Stop for Writers. And the Character Builder, you know, it is exactly what we call it. It helps you build a character from the ground up. But we look at all the most important pieces of information to know about a character. So you can brainstorm the character's backstory, their personality, their behavior and emotional range, which we talked about before, you know, all their daily life stuff, their talents, skills, secrets, the whole thing. And we built this so that it uses all the different thesauruses we've written on these topics. So it will look at your character's emotional wound. And you can kind of go through and pull information right from that thesaurus that applies directly to your character's behavior. And this tool, it guides you each step of the way to sort of explain, you know, what is your character's fear and why is this going to be important in the story? What is the lie that your character believes? And how is this going to be important to the story? And so it helps explain these concepts as you go along so that you're not just brainstorming, okay, yeah, I need to figure out like some traumatic thing that happened to my character, you know, for reasons. Instead, it's like, no, like you want a very specific emotional wound because that's going to be the centerpiece of your character arc. And it's going to be the very thing your character has to face and overcome in order to move forward someone stronger. And so we sort of break things down and make it easier for people to digest. And the beautiful thing about this tool is that it's smart enough to know which pieces of information the writer brainstorms about the character that will feed into character arc. And so it'll create a blueprint, basically showing them exactly based on the information that you brainstormed about this character, this is their arc in the story. And it creates this really helpful blueprint that you can now use to plot. And so again, just we kind of take a broader view and try to figure out how can we make writing easier because there is such a learning curve. And so if we can kind of shorten that for people, that's kind of our mission.
It's really interesting. Sorry.
I know that's not the traditional writing coach, so I apologize.
No, I think it's really interesting because on the last episode we had Gabriela Pereira from DIY MFA. And awesome. Yeah, very similar kind of philosophies there, different approaches obviously, but yeah, I think there are a lot of crossover similarities there.
I mean, I think the thing you said about the learning curve, that really resonates with me because I think, you know, so many of us who are creative people, we come to writing because we have the inspiration or the talent or the ambition to write a story. And that feels like it, you know, if you're sort of a reasonably talented writer, you've been told all your life that you're a good writer and you always got A's in English class or whatever, it feels like that should be enough to sort of translate into writing a full book. But there's so many kind of like conventions of narrative and the publishing market and fiction and all that kind of stuff that there is so much just kind of like terminology and basics to learn that there's not always a super great comprehensive resource out there for people. And it's not to say that like all of those conventions are cast in stone, but it really helps to know what they are when you're trying to go, especially a traditional publishing route.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong for you guys, but I know for me, like I said, when I started my journey, I thought, I just need to, polish up a little. I'll be great, ready to go. And then you're just like, yeah, right. But I think that every writer at some point in time, you learn enough about writing it starts to sink in just what you don't know. And it's kind of this terrifying moment where you have a choice to make. You realize, okay, like I've climbed this summit, yay, me. But there's like this giant mountain ahead of me of things to still learn and absorb. And am I ready for that? Like, am I ready to put in the hard work? Or do I quit and, do something else? And I've known people, both sides of that fence, which always makes me sad, especially when it's someone that has so much raw talent, but it's writing it, like you say, it's so much more than just, having that passion or that idea. You really have to put in the work, and it is a lot of work, and there is a lot to know. And yeah, once you understand the basics, like you're more informed and you can make decisions about what you want to do for your story and make it your vision. Totally, you don't have to pay attention to every single rule, but definitely, you need to know what those rules are and why.
Yeah, certainly helps.
Mm-hmm. I think I asked the last question. We've been talking back and forth so much. It's hard to
So I think we have another one from one of your Patreon supporters, Lodestar, who says, you have so many amazing pictures of traveling experience. Where would you say is your favorite 3 spots you've been to?
Oh boy. Hey, I would say Australia. I really loved Australia. Italy, really loved Italy, and Vietnam. And yeah, and the Galapagos. It's okay, I know those 4. I can't count. It's like Rosemary's Baby. But no, like those would definitely be some of my favorites. We've been very lucky to travel a lot. It's a passion of mine and my husband's, and we've taken our kids on a few trips. Some of these trips are writing related, like Australia. They invited me over there for a conference. And so, I was able to travel afterwards, which was fantastic. So it's just one of the great things about what I do that I love. I can kind of blend writing and travel together. So yeah.
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about lately is trying to craft a life around like the what is it called? The FI people, the fire people call it location independence, right? Where you can work from anywhere, so you can take kind of like prolonged trips if you want to. I wanted to ask you about you and your business partner, Becca, have only met in person a few times. But you've co-written all these books together and built multiple businesses together. How have you managed to do that when you're separated by so much distance?
I know, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? I think what the magic is with us is, first of all, we're completely aligned on what we are and what we're trying to do. We get along super well because we really understand each other, and we have very complementary strengths and weaknesses. So my strengths complement her weaknesses, and her strengths complement mine, which has been really, really helpful. It means that we're able to divide tasks really well. We're both, kind of masters in certain areas. And so being able to fill in each other's blanks has been super helpful. We Skype a lot, and we have weekly meetings. For One Stop for Writers, we'll have a weekly meeting with our team to kind of just go over where everyone is at and what is on our radar and stuff like that. So we're both highly communicative people. Big surprise as writers, but it's really, I think that's super key, is just to have a really good communicative relationship. But we're both able to compromise. We both understand each other's passions and risk thresholds and things like that. And we're able to, work with each other's sensitivities, which I just think if you have a really respectful relationship with the person that you're co-authoring a book with, and that trust and friendship is there, it makes it really, really easy to do projects together. So distance isn't really an issue with us. Although it is weird that we've only met, I think, 4 times. So.
I guess we're all becoming kind of accustomed to that,
Yeah.
Especially in this last year. So you guys were just ahead of the curve.
Yeah, exactly. It was practice.
So we have a question from the comments from Karen, who says, is there a book of yours that you suggest a writer get first? And I've lost my headphone.
I did that earlier. So.
I've got tiny ears, so they're just like constantly popping out. Anyway.
Karen, I would probably say to start with the Emotion Thesaurus. Just make sure you get the 2nd edition, because the 2nd edition is expanded and there's 130 emotions, whereas the 1st edition, there's only 75. And the reason why I would just suggest that one is because it is the most popular. It seems to fill the greatest need with people. So I would definitely say that would be a good one to start with. But with any of our books, if you go to, I know you guys talked about indie bookstores at the start, and I really appreciate that you did that, because I think that's so important. So if you go to, any store that has like a preview of any of our books, and it might be Amazon, you can go look at Amazon and then buy indie, but there's always like a good sample of all our books. So it'll kind of give you an idea of what it is before you buy it. And I just, I think that's the way to do it. Then you know what you're getting. I mean, our books are a little strange in that they're not exactly writing guides. They're kind of part writing guide, part tool. But that's also part of the magic, that people really find them easy to brainstorm, as they can see an emotion all at once, or they can see an emotional wound all at once, or a setting. So.
All right. It is time for the final question I ask every guest on the show. What is the most important book you've ever read, and why? With, of course, you defining important however you would like to.
This is a tough one, and it is, you're right. No pressure. I think that the book, I would say, was most important to me and my development and my ability to get over my insecurities as a writer, and also helping me in life, is a book called Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And it was by Marilee Adams. And it's actually a business book, but it looks at the 2 mindsets that we have as people. A lot of people have a mindset that's called a judging or a judger mindset. And this is basically, where we get really critical and negative, and we're closed-minded and defensive. So something bad happens, and, immediately we get angry and upset, like maybe a agent, doesn't request our work. Oh my God, what's wrong with them? And we get very defensive, or something bad happens as writers, we get really upset, and it can really get in our head. And mindset is so important in this business, to have a good mindset. And so, when you're in this judging mindset, you tend to kind of look for fault in things. Why aren't I good enough? Why didn't I get a request? And we make it all about what we've done wrong, or what's wrong with the world. And this book taught me how to flip that to a learner mindset, where instead of always judging and trying to find fault in everything and other people and yourself and what you did wrong, you instead become curious, and you look for, okay, what's the lesson here? What can I learn from this experience? What can I try to do next time? How can I focus on the things that I can control and invest my time in that, rather than worry and frustration and things that are out of my control? So an example would be, I'm querying, an editor, or I'm querying an agent. I have no control over whether or not they're going to say yes or no. But I do have control over my query letter, and really investigating on what makes a good query letter. How can I, make sure that the pitch is there and it's as honed as possible. I have control over making sure that I'm targeting the agent properly. There's a lot of things that I have control over that I can do my best at. And it just helped me flip the script. And once I started doing that, I actually started seeing a lot more success in my life, just because I was looking at things differently. I was much more open-minded. And, I also was not feeling like as insecure and, that imposter syndrome and stuff like that. I was able to kind of walk away from that. So yeah, it's, it's more attuned to me as far as importance, but it really did help me on my path. So that's probably the book I would say.
It sounds good.
Yeah, I think every major like emotional meltdown, like going to find my husband sobbing inconsolably about what is going on in publishing, has been 100% like me worrying about stuff other people had control over or should be doing or weren't doing, that I had like no say in and no control over at all. So I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read a lot of Buddhist books. The way that I was raised is very different from the person that I want to be, right? So I've been trying to work on myself and being like less judgmental and less reactive, and so it sounds very similar to like a lot of the things that I've learned, through that study. So yeah, it's like a interesting Buddhist take on business.
Yeah.
All right, Angela, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you coming, and it's been great chatting with you. I've just really enjoyed this chat.
Thank you. It's been fun with you guys. This is great. Thank you guys so much for having me on. And
Yeah,
thank you
so much
everybody
for answering
who
all these questions. I'm learning so much.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to say bye to Angela, and we're going to close out with a couple of the final segments. Bye, Angela. All right. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
Fun.
All right.
I feel like I'm still learning so much about writing emotions. So I was like asking all those questions for myself.
Yeah, asking for friends.
Exactly.
I am my best friend. All right. It is time for Audiobook a Week. So Audiobook a Week this week is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner, narrated by three people with very similar names. Lorna Bennett, Lauren Anthony, and Lauren Irwin. In 18th century, in 18th century London, women across the city whisper of a secret apothecary who sells well-disguised poisons to use against the oppressive men in their lives. But the apothecary's fate is jeopardized when her newest patron, a precocious 12-year-old, makes a fatal mistake. Meanwhile, in present-day London, aspiring historian Caroline Parswell spends her 10th wedding anniversary alone, running from her own demons. When she stumbles upon a clue to the unsolved apothecary murders that haunted London 200 years ago, her life collides with the apothecaries in a stunning twist of fate.
God, that cover is just so sexy. I can't.
It's so pretty. Yeah. Yeah, so this is an author who has actually taught a workshop for me at the library, and then the publisher offered me an audiobook review copy, which I get like pitch emails from publishers, and so I decided, I'm not a huge historical fan, and I say that, but every time I read a historical book, I love it. So maybe I should stop saying that, but I really enjoyed it. It's like a little less thrillery than the description leads you to believe, but it is still very interesting, and I really enjoyed all of it. So yeah,
sounds like a great premise. Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah. Oh, and I did want to mention, this is the first time I'm doing it. I think I'm going to keep doing it if y'all like it. I included both the Libro FM first, which I recommend, and also the Audible link in the description if you want to just go ahead and check that out. And those are affiliate links. So just a heads up on that. All right. It is time to talk about the viewer poll. So let me pull that up on the screen. This is one of the questions that I ask authors on the Queries, Qualms, and Quirks podcast, and so I was just kind of trying to get like an idea of where people were. So when you're drafting, do you tend to focus on getting it done or getting it right? Getting it done, about 72% of people said that, and getting it right, about 28% said that. Where are you? Where do you fall?
Well, I voted in this, and I said getting it done for sure. And I should clarify, though, I think I am constantly fighting myself to get it done instead of get it right. I think just getting that internal editor to shut the hell up so that I can put like literally any garbage I can think of down on the page so that I have something to edit instead of obsessing over every sentence. And I write most of my first drafts by hand in a notebook because of my handwriting is so messy I can't read it while I'm writing it. And so it just forces me to kind of like keep moving. Yeah, I mean, I know there are people who like really obsess over every single particular word, and that works for them, but I would never get anything done that way.
Yeah.
Where are you?
I definitely started as a getting it done kind of person. And I think, and this is probably true for a lot of people, I think a lot of it has to do with I wrote my first novel through NaNoWriMo. And that's the whole philosophy of NaNoWriMo is like just get the words on the paper, right? But because I hate editing, like I hate revision, I hate the whole process. And it's fine. Like a lot of people love revision. I don't. I'm transitioning more to get it right kind of person. Not necessarily like the language, but I don't want to have to rewrite large chunks. So if I'm in the process of writing and I realize this isn't right, like I'm going to have to do a large edit on this, I will stop and fix it because I just don't want to have to do it later.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of this kind of like experiment right now where I've been changing my drafting process because I have the same problem where I also hate revising. But if I fixate too much on it in the early stages, I never get anything done. So I've developed this like 3-part process where the goal was to make every part of the process feel like drafting. So I do this like crazy freehand draft, or no, I do like a 0 draft that I call my chaos draft, where I basically just explain the story to myself as like sarcastically as I possibly can, scene by scene. And then it's like, this doesn't matter at all because I'm not even writing in first person. I'm writing it like talking it to myself. And then I use that as a jumping off point to freehand write it in my notebook. And it's like, this doesn't matter at all. I'm just freehanding in my notebook. And then I type it up and I kind of edit it as I go. And at that point, it's like, well, this doesn't matter at all because I already wrote the whole thing. So just like convincing myself that nothing matters at every stage has been really pivotal to my writing process.
That's fun. Yeah. And I've been really enjoying some of the questions. I mean, the way that writers have been answering this question on the podcast. And it has helped me kind of like evaluate my own writing process a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to my notes. There we go. All right. Well, thank you all for voting in the poll. And thank you, Kylie, so much for coming on the show today. It's been great having you. It's been a great conversation. Yeah, so I'm going to say goodbye to you and just close out with a couple notes, and I'll talk to you in a minute.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me. And thanks so much to all of your viewers for letting me come and hang out with you guys.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. I got her off. My bad. Okay. So if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like and subscribe right down there so you don't miss another episode. And tell your friends if you enjoyed it, because that is how they find out about things like this. You can also subscribe via email in the description. And oh, yeah. If you want to support the show with a couple bucks a month, go to patreon.com/PubTalkLive. And thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. You will see their names at the end of the show. And I just wanted to say I really appreciate all the support y'all provide. And the social media for our guests is in the description, along with their websites and links to their books. So make sure you go check them out. Upcoming, we have the Queries, Qualms, and Quirks episode this week will be a middle grade memoir author who spent 20 years trying to make it as a screenwriter before writing a book. So I hope you tune in for that because it's a great conversation. We continue the Wednesday write-ins every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on this channel. Come and join us to get some writing done and just chat with us as well. The last Wednesday in May, I'm going to have to be late again because I'm teaching a workshop. And so we are actually going to be joined by guest co-host Kelly Garrett. So tune in for that. I mean, tune in for all of them, but tune in for that one too. And then on May 8th, I'm launching the new format, for the second Saturday PubTalk Lives. So from now on, the second Saturday is going to be called PubTalk Live Author Journeys. And it's talking to an author, just doing kind of a deep dive into their author journey. And that is going to be starting with Gabby Justice on May 8th. So come in for that. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.